Wow, we must have a really crummy internet connection right now. How much internet are you using? Just come look at my picture. It's all, it's not, look how crummy it is.
But you're using the built-in camera.
See if the webcam is in that bag. It might be, or it might be at work. Ooh, it's bad.
Turn on HD.
How do I turn on HD?
Settings.
In
Go
here?
down to video settings. Oh, HD camera's on.
Yeah.
I'll get out the
It might be at work. Okay. Can you move that bag here? Okay. Love you
Once
too.
I'm done with my German practice, I'm gonna go to the shower.
Okay. Oh, I'm recording this.
Can you hear me?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Monday.
Stuart, can you hear me or no?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, good, good, wonderful.
So Crystal, I'm going with 6:18, okay?
Okay, great.
Thanks.
And I don't know if Sean, we're probably going to have to close out at 7 anyway.
We got time to get some things done. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Let's start.
call to order is at 6:18, and roll call is who wants to start?
Sean Copeland, I'm here.
Dottie Durst.
Stuart Peasley. And
Tina LaJoy's here as just your helper.
and I think there's a more official title though, isn't there?
Zoning enforcement officer, wetlands agent. That's it.
Okay. Moving on to item number 3, appointment of alternates. We'll wait on that. Since we understand that Frank Ola has to be officially named by the Board of Selectmen, and that's probably for the next meeting. So we can move on to item number 4, chair's comments. I sent out, I don't know if I sent out to this group the summary letter from the advanced CT.
I don't think I saw it.
Really?
Tell
I
me
think you
what
sent it, Stuart.
what does it look like? What it,
I think so.
It was a couple pages, plus a lot of demographic charts.
I don't know. I made a
Okay.
summary of her comments and sent that out as roundtable discussion, but I don't know that I saw her
Okay.
comments. Can't remember. It's been too long.
I will send it out again. And I was just rereading it, and I addressed it to Jay Swan, Jeff Gordon, and Stuart Morse because of the impulse or the impetus is to try and work collaboratively across different commissions. And ultimately, I think we're going to focus on those two first if we had a choice. But the question would be, how do we actually do that? And what form does that take? And that's even made more complicated now with the COVID thing. So this gives us a good time to address things like setting up an email issue. Ideally, if we could, one of those forms we could take would be to do the farmers market idea. Would be fantastic, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. And so all we can do is plan. And the planning takes communication. The communication really requires that we have an uninterrupted kind of system where questions can be asked, issues can be raised. And so as a result, I know I sent this out. I sent out a couple of sheets of just, notes that I scribbled down, and I just want to, they're not in any order, but within that email process, and I think I'm sort of jumping ahead, but maybe I'll hold off on that. So that's an overview. Let's move along. Any questions on that?
Is there anything from that advanced CT that you really want to implement, Stuart?
I think that they're going to be a good resource and be able to give guidance and sort of energize our activities. And they're also really important because they've given us a case study with Tolland, Bolton, Andover, and one other town, Coventry. And they did sort of an action plan for that group of towns. And we would come very close to Coventry in terms of what our potential operations could be, what our services could do. So that was really important with, very beneficial. Mansfield, sorry, I made a mistake. It wasn't Andover, it was Mansfield. Mansfield is another one that I think, although it's quite a bit different because of Yukon. But it's also, again, important to really understand the demographics of these different communities. But it's really helpful to look at this and say, here's what's happened with this town, and here's what we can do and what we can learn from it. And Coventry was really good for that, is really good for that. Mm-hmm. So advanced CT will help out in that regard.
Okay, research. Gotcha.
But with the kind of questions that we can expect from our communications within the town, that's what I mentioned before. I don't know if you've seen this from Woodstock Business Association. All right, so I count 92 businesses in here. I don't know what there are. That was last year. I don't know what there are for 2021, but let's say there's 100. What, and they're broken down into like 8 sectors. So I think we could prioritize, and that just helps give us, where to address our efforts, where to focus our attention. And that's really that's the most important part, because we have our limited resources. So how can we best utilize what we do have? That's I think one of our key objectives. Listen, we can spend hours upon hours on all of the things that really are pending, but what we need to do is just say, hey, we've got a limit, and we've got to address what we can do.
So the last time we talked about a farmer's market and trying to follow through on some ideas of where that could be, and I think that's a great thing we need to get moving on, for this year.
Absolutely, and that's where I want to have that right off the bat, working with planning, zoning, and Stuart Morris. They've got to be right involved as well.
So we need to find out when their upcoming meetings are and see if we can join in and and discuss it under citizens' comments, or ask ahead of time if they have time for us. So
is there did I miss somebody? I feel like I'm missing somebody there.
What do you mean? Oh, as far as who to partner up with, the Board of Selectmen,
Planning, zoning,
agricultural commission,
And the business association.
and the business association.
Okay.
There is a Northeastern Connecticut Chamber of Commerce, and some Woodstock businesses are members of the chamber and are not members of the business association. So you could kind of cross-reference there too if you wanted to.
So I sent that out last week, and of course, this is the time of year where, you know, everybody is just getting back up on their feet again. So I don't expect to hear anything this month, but hopefully we can get that going. And I think that's, you know, going to be instrumental for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a call today from somebody that was looking at, you know, that little piece of property that used to have the salt shed on it on the corner of 171 and West Road. It's that small little piece. Well, I've gotten so many calls about that property that, you know, indicates it's commercial. There's nothing on there, but somebody
Just a
called
little
today and
lump.
said, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because if it's non-residential, you know, you have to have, there's 2 front setbacks from the road, so you got to be 60 feet and then 40 feet from the rear. So there's not a lot of room to put anything there, but somebody called today to see if they could set up a farmer's market there. I was thinking, it's not quite a lot of room there, but a very small farmer's market. I just thought that was interesting.
I think there'd be a huge demand for it. I think it's a great idea. So it's just a question of like what we can do with COVID. Is that going to inhibit our actions?
Where do you want to set it up, Stuart? What do you think? Or have we talked about that yet? I should say.
No, we haven't talked about that yet. I think what's the place across from Rusty Relic now, Tina?
Yes, the Grange Hall.
The Grange.
Hall.
We talked about that, Sean, for a minute.
I do remember that conversation. Yeah. So you're trying to see if we could set it up there. Okay.
Yeah, essentially it would be an outdoor event. But because the Grange Hall does have a certified kitchen and bathrooms, that, you know, the facility could be supportive of the idea of a farmer's market.
Makes a lot of sense, Patty.
Farm oriented.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense.
Fairgrounds too, right? The Woodstock Fairgrounds.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of room there.
So whichever board's more willing to work with us, to be quite honest.
Yep.
There's a far more traffic that goes past the fairgrounds also. So it's higher visibility. And because just barely inside of the gate, there's just flat land. So parking could be on one side and some tents and tables from the farmers who are participating on the other side of that little driveway. It could work well and be very visible. The Grange Hall is very visible, but the traffic count is significantly lower, because when you look at what the DOT puts out for traffic counts, you'll see a lot of vehicles turn west to turn onto 171 in South Woodstock, and as a result, they don't get all the way up to the Grange.
Well,
Yeah,
who would be the manager of the fairgrounds?
Jeff Gordon is on the board there. Jeff Gordon would be a good person to ask.
What's her name, Tina? I forget.
Susan.
Yes.
Susan.
Lloyd.
Yeah, I have her.
Lloyd.
The other. Yeah, that's it.
With Sue
yeah.
Lloyd. Yeah.
Sue Lloyd. Yeah.
And Patty Kelly, she's my neighbor too.
Yep, Patty Kelly.
I'm sure. Well, I don't know how they'd respond to. I'd wonder how they'd be interested. So yeah, I could ask Patty easy what she thought of it.
Yeah, because you know, the sooner the better, because we're thinking for what, May, June, July kind of time frame, right?
Yeah, so you'd want to set up a weekend lease to use part of the property for, I mean, essentially, right? That's what we're talking about, a weekend lease, and what they'd be willing to do.
Yeah, they may. Are you still talking about the fairgrounds?
You know, that's the one that I have a contact with. That's all. That's why I said that.
Well, that makes good sense because they already have insurance. So in terms of the public, not members of the Grange, but members of the public accessing that property going in through the gate, they're already insured. They may ask the town to pay a small fee, like for a maintenance person or to clean up litter or something like that. But beyond that, they may not charge any kind of fee. So Sean, if you're going to speak with someone, poke around in that area and
Well,
see.
Yeah,
what
see
they're
what they'd
thinking.
be interested in. I'm sure they're gonna want to charge us something. I mean, right, that's business, but
Right now, we don't have any feedback from anybody in the ag community that they would value the opportunity
Yeah.
because it's never happened yet. So we simultaneously need to kind of get a nod from the fairgrounds that it's even possible. And if they say no, we have to consider whether we want to consider the Grange. And then after that, we have to find out, like what is a critical mass? Is it 2 tables or 5 or 8, table and canopy? So we have to
I mean,
figure out what's going to work and when is it worth it.
the one in Putnam does well. I mean, and they probably have at least 8 tables there.
Yeah, in Putnam, they do in the first of the season, they do 1 day a week. Later in the season, they do 2 days a week.
Mhm.
And 4 or 5 Woodstock people involved in ag go down there. So if it's a different, if I remember correctly, they did Thursdays at the Putnam Farmers Market. So, and Saturday. So if we did Friday, then maybe the Woodstock farmers could, or people involved in ag could participate, and then they could still also go to Putnam. We'd have to, get a good feel from those who participate in Putnam about whether they would do the additional day in Woodstock.
Okay.
Well, I think it's a great opportunity, for local businesses, and that's like Sadie from Advanced Connecticut was saying, it's just an incubator. It's just gonna make other things grow. Arts, music, restaurants.
Yeah, right. One of the things that the EDC is going to have to consider is if it even looks remotely like this can work, we're going to have to draft up a definition for what is a farmer's market. The zoning regulations right now, I believe, don't have a definition for a farmer's market. And then we, in that, would specify what is permitted there. We have farm stand, which is very specific to what can be permitted there, but we don't have farmer's market. And then a sentence or two to go into the zoning regulations that fleshes that out a little bit. So we'd want to bring that pretty much the text created before the Planning and Zoning Commission for their review. Then of course they can modify it however they want. But the smart thing to do is go in with a definition in a sentence or two of text, so they have something to start out with. And it takes 3 or 4 months sometimes to get the discussion to take place and people to consider how this would work and whether the definition is what Woodstock really wants, as well as the sentences in the zoning regulations themselves, and get it approved. Because right now, we don't permit farmers markets.
Can't you call it a craft fair, Dottie? What's the difference between what the Pink House does?
Tina, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say, I mean, at the
Yeah.
Woodstock Fairgrounds, they have the Celebrating Ag. They have lots of celebrations that
Yeah, if
are
we name
allowed
it
as a
something
matter.
else, right? If we name it something else, we don't call it a farmer's market, then it's just a 1-day event. Then the selectmen sign off on that. First selectman signs off on a permit for a 1-day event. That's nothing. And that's just a given. So you can call it make up a name for it. And, June is busting out all over. That's the name of it. And get a 1-day permit, and
Mhm.
people involved in ag and music and art and whatever else, and just have a good time there.
Yeah, I don't think it would be very complicated if we're having it at a place, like the Woodstock Fairgrounds. for
That
that
would,
use. Right.
that would simplify things a lot,
Correct,
which is going to attract a lot more people.
right. So the next Board of Selectmen meeting is, let's see. Third Thursday at 4 o'clock. So that will be
The 21st or 28th? 21st.
21st, yep, at 4 o'clock. So It would be good if you want to check with the, your contacts at the fairgrounds, see if there's something we can do. And then bring it to the selectmen's meeting.
I can do that.
Dottie,
Yeah. Yeah.
what do you think?
I think we have to have some sentences that we can put together to take to the selectmen. So
Okay.
right now we'd have to create a paragraph that says we are proposing a one-day event involving as many members of the ag community as can participate, as well as uh, local artists and other Woodstock individuals. You know, we'd have to create a sentence so the selectmen have something to look at and think about. They can't vote on it if it's just too nebulous.
I think there's a little bit before you can bring anything to the selectmen. I think I'd have to talk to the fair and someone's gonna.
Oh,
talk to
absolutely, right.
her.
That has to be first.
Yeah, and see
I-
if that,
I'm,
get those type of sign-offs.
would we have to talk to Jeff Gordon first, or?
He's a member of the board, I think Tina said.
Yeah, he is. We can bring it up to him.
It would be talking to two people, both of them with the same finger in the same pie, but it'd give you a different perspective. So I think that's smart.
Well, they both have seen my letter or my summary of the, so it's not going to be earth shocking. That, you know, it was discussed, and I'll send that out. I'm sorry I didn't send it out. I just oversight. So moving along, then old business. I think we're kind of singing the same tune throughout. Basically, it was community outreach, and I know that, you know, the efforts I made, when was it, last summer, didn't yield any response at all. So that's just because it probably was too understated. I think, you know, if we had a more formal approach that looked like it came from the town, and, you know, we set up follow-up phone calls or some kind of methodical approach that would maybe yield some results. I just think that it's given the COVID situation, it's going to be hard to go meet people. Anyway, so that's community outreach. Ongoing study will continue. Regulations and definitions, of course, apply. In that regard, I know Tina's brought this up several times, but part of our outreach should be to help facilitate permitting and what that's in, you know, how we can streamline it if possible. So I noticed in the advanced CT case study, they have some really good examples to follow, and we can really look at that. It just takes some of the questions off the table with what do I do now? I want to set up a farmer's market. Well, it's just like we're talking about. Well, we need to make definitions, and we need to reach the right people. And so we need a guide. We need to install that kind of guide for any new business or any existing business. If an existing business wants to expand or move or sell, what happens? So all of those things can be clarified. That should be part of our effort, setting things up so that as changes go, there's instruments and instrumentation in place to make it easier.
Good. It'll definitely help out to having that guide, Stuart. I think that's a valid point.
Yeah.
That's important.
So I'm going to work on that, and I'm going to bug you, Tina, when I have questions.
Yep,
And
please do, because I've been, yeah, it is really important. supporting businesses and working with people that want to come here and, finding the right places for them. And yeah.
Just helping with the questions.
Yep. Yep.
So we can put this off again till another month or two, but the Pomfret joint Zoom meeting, I still feel like we're struggling a little bit with within our own shell, and I'd like to be able to have more solid footing before we start collaborating across on Zoom meetings like that. I think we might gain more that way. That makes sense. I don't know.
You
Yeah, it
want to bring
does.
on this new member first is what you're saying. That makes sense.
Yeah. Di, do you have any thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree. Right now, essentially, Victor can't participate much, and that's a shame. So we're not only down Stephanie, who moved away, but also we're down Victor. And, that much more brain power and energy and ideas really is important. So not only do we need the person who has stepped forward and shown interest now, but we have to go back, I think, and as you said earlier, recontact some of those businesses that you had approached months back, Stuart. And I think, Tina, you approached some people too, or mentioned at least that the economic development has an available seat, which I'm sure that if Victor said, listen, I can't really do it, but you have somebody who can, he might say, well, I'll wait till the alternates are created, then I'll become an alternate. So that'd be cool. I don't want Victor to go away, but also he can't be here most of the time. So it's just a shame for him. So yes, I think we really need to have our 5, and they need to be people willing to pitch in with ideas and energy, and then we can go somewhere.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. So moving along, we'll go into new business, resources inventory, identify and connect throughout the community. We're talking about that. Information management and sharing. Again, so the question that comes to mind for me, the big issue is, once we make contact, how do we keep it? And I think that's part of, these email programs that do that. If I just send out a individual email, and I forget about it after a week or two, and at least this system will methodically, send out those annoying emails that you get. But it's kind of what we need. And if we really want to, we're going to have to put the time and energy into it ourselves. But I think we're in a learning curve with it. I did research and I set up one account with something called MooSend. And but I haven't taken the time to learn more about how to implement it. So and Crystal's going to look into it as well from the town side. But as I say, I looked into Killingly's EDC page, and they have a contact page where if you have any questions, you can just reach out and write in a direct question to the chair and that town. So that would be helpful too. I didn't realize how time flies, but we better move along. Reports by members. I have one question for Sean.
Yeah.
Did you ever look into inventory of buildings that the town owns that might be dormant?
I have not done that, but I was thinking about that. It's old business, honestly. That needs to happen. I haven't done that yet. I will get that.
Is the question about parcels of land or buildings?
Buildings we talked about and saying how we could market those or to businesses and what maybe within a zoning district that may allow a new business, very much similar to what Tina's saying.
Okay.
Things that the town, because the town owns property, and a lot of the time they lay dormant and forgotten. So just seeing if there are any of those properties out there that would fall under that.
So
I don't know. Can I go online, Tina, and look up properties the town owns? Is that public information?
Yeah, you can go onto the assessor's records, vision appraisal, and look up all town of Woodstock properties on there. Probably be mostly land, but. So I can help with that too.
Just
Or
pulling it
just
up now.
vacant buildings in general that are in an area that might be acceptable for business.
I'm just gonna mute myself so I can type and pull it up at the same time. You guys, well, we keep moving on.
Multitasking.
Yeah.
So while Sean's doing that, does anybody else have any reports, Dottie or?
I do. When we met last, we talked about how to market what's going on in our business community. And I have been in touch with the person at the Villager who handles marketing. She and I have exchanged maybe, I don't know, 15 emails. And right now she's trying to determine if there can be possibly an advertising rate for nonprofit or municipal uses. Right now, there's not. And then she would help us lay out a recurring, fun-looking ad. I'm going to call it an ad because it'll be paid for. That says, it's the concept is shop locally, support your local businesses. It would have a fun slogan, a cute banner around it, border, and then each time we ran it, we would feature a new business. So right now it might be the Rusty Relic. It might be after that some of the new businesses that Tina pointed out to us that are coming to town very soon, or can be the anniversary of a business that's been here a long time.
Yep.
It can be news, actual news, like some stuff's going on at the inn at Woodstock Hill. So it can we create the center of it and modify the center of it each time there's something that we want to promote. And so again, the woman does not have a price for me yet. I'm looking to see if there's a nonprofit or municipal price. And another option to address the same thing is to ourselves print an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, print it two-sided ourselves and deliver that to the Villager. And this would be a what's going on in Woodstock business news sort of thing, two-sided, like a newsletter. It would go inside of every single Villager. That would be Putnam, Thompson, Eastford, Pomfret, Woodstock. Did I miss one? So all the surrounding towns, it'd be an insert. And then people at their houses would say, oh, I didn't even know there was that over there. And so we're promoting the business community as a whole, featuring one or two or three at a time. So again, I don't have a price on that. It's like $37 to insert the flyer, the single piece of paper printed two-sided, but we have to print them. So how you do that, it would take 10,000 sheets of paper to do it if we targeted every single home in those towns. So again, I'm working with this woman trying to come up with what's feasible. And then as soon as there's something feasible, I'll get it back to all of you.
Nice.
Well, it sounds like it's got a good potential anyway.
Yep, it does. And it would be something visible that the EDC would have its name on. And, the effort's being made and there's the evidence. Again, I can't give you much further information yet, but within another day or 2 or 5, she'll have some solid information. I'll get it back to everybody. Tina, we have not seen a remaining budget balance in a very long time. Is that something you can ask Karen for and then just email
Yeah,
back
I'm
out?
sure, I'm sure we have pretty close to, we haven't really used much.
Yeah, I think we spent like a couple hundred way early, something
Yep.
like that, right, for the ribbon cutting stuff.
Are you going to be asking for more this year? Did you
Well,
already
Oh, yeah.
put that together?
that's gonna, what this is gonna lead to is as soon as I have a hard number from this woman at the Villager, then we, the EDC, will decide if that's what we want to do, first of all, in what format, print ad or insert or what.
Mhm.
Then after that, what will it need for a budget? So right now, we can't answer your question, Tina, if you need more for a budget. We do need to get the request in for at least the same amount, if not more.
Mhm.
Is it feasible to ask for more?
Yeah, I think because you really are planning on doing some work this year, so I think you should.
Yeah,
And don't forget, Stuart, when we send the request to the selectmen, they review, or the Board of Selectmen review it first, and then they send it to the Board of Finance. So if the Board of Selectmen say, looking at the big picture, geez, it's just so tight across the board, all over town, it's so tight, we can't give the EDC the increase, well, then they can't. But if they think that it's feasible to increase by, figure $200 more or whatever we ask for, then if they can, then they'll put that forward to the Board of Finance. So it's like a little process. And if we advocate for what we're trying to do, don't forget, economic development means tax dollars coming into the town. If our businesses, not a new business, just our existing businesses survive and can pay their taxes, that's security for the town. So promoting our existing businesses is huge as far as the tax revenue that comes in. Sean can testify to that because his business, I'm sure, is a tax-paying entity, as many, all the other businesses are as well. So the selectmen understand that EDC is not just spending money promoting something, they also is in a form are generating money.
Yep, it's
Yeah.
important.
but definitely. The more vitality that we are demonstrating, I think the greater probability is that we're going to be driving revenue into the town. And they've got to see that formula.
Mhm.
So-
Tina, do you know by what date we have to have the budget request in?
I believe it's the 28th.
Like January?
Yeah, this month we have to have it in.
Okay, then I'm gonna make a motion. Everybody ready? I'm gonna make a motion that we ask the Board of Selectmen to fund the Economic Development Commission to the amount of $1,200 for the upcoming fiscal year.
I second that motion, Dottie.
Was that you,
All
Sean?
those, all
Yes.
those in favor? Say aye.
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 So I'm gonna write
Opposed?
down unanimous.
Unanimous.
And so what I'll do is I'll put a quick memo in writing. Tina, I'll send it to you so you can glance at it and make sure I got a format that's appropriate for the
Okay.
selectmen, and we'll get that in because I don't want to miss that deadline.
Yeah, I know. That's why I wanted to bring that up. But we have to sign off because we've got to get over to the wetlands meeting.
Okay, do we have 2 more minutes?
Possibly.
Okay, do we have, I think that we're going to have to create bylaws because we don't have any bylaws. Crystal was talking about that before we started the meeting. And I think we're going to have to ask the selectmen to consider adding alternates to the 5-member commission. So if I have your permission, I'm going to put paper stuff together. I'll send it to you, Stuart, to propose those 2 things to the selectmen. And you and I will just bobble something back and forth and see if we can get that in.
That sounds good.
Then lastly, on my list, I think we need to approve our minutes. Appropriate for somebody to make a motion to approve the minutes and somebody else to second that motion.
I move that we approve the minutes as created by Dot for the, is that all?
That's it right there. Shh, shh.
Okay.
That's it. I'm looking for a second.
I'll second the approval of
Okay.
the minutes from the previous week.
Thank you. And Stuart, call for the vote.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, so that little piece of detail is going to get handled too. I was hoping we could get our election of our chairman done tonight. Do we think that we can squeeze that in?
I don't know. She's messaging me that we're done. So
Okay, so let's
sorry.
put that on the agenda for next time then. We'll have our
Okay.
election of officers. Since we don't
Alright.
have bylaws, we're not told we have to tonight.
Yep,
Okay,
sounds good.
I'm gonna, Stuart, you're gonna adjourn at 6:57?
Second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.